So lately we have been looking at functions. We saw that Python comes with different types of functions. There is the built-in functions, those 68, which Python comes with from out of the box. There is also, so we saw examples, I think, of some built-in functions which are available for you out of the box and how to use them. Then we also proceeded to create our own functions because Python gives you the ability to create your own functions, right? So we saw how to do that with the example of the square function, and also we created other functions like person and also subtract, and how to basically how to make a function from scratch depending on what you need. Then the other day we saw how to create another type of function called a lambda function, which is just a very short function. Okay. However, Python also has a subclass of special functions which only work on special objects called methods. For example, certain objects like lists, we have looked at lists in Python, we have looked at tuples, we have looked at dictionaries. These lists, tuples, and dictionaries, they come with a set of functions which only work on these guys. So what we're going to look at tonight, hopefully we're going to look at the methods which work with lists and also with tuples and how to use them. I know when we looked at lists, we saw some of these things, some of these methods, and you're going to see how to do that. So we're going to start with list methods. Then after we look at list methods, hopefully we can look at tuples, methods for tuples. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to see how to use a method. That's basically the objective. We're going to see how to use the methods for lists and also methods for tuple. So to start with, Python comes with 11 built-in methods which you can use on a list. Okay, are we clear? So when you have a list, there are 11 functions called methods which you can use on a list. How do you see which functions those are? So for you to see which functions those are, you have to do the following. You have to print. So you print, you do a print, then inside the print function, you write this dir, then list, the name of the list. So if you run that, it's allocating space. Just a minute. Okay, so when you do this, it gives you a bunch of things like add, class, contain. This is not really what we're interested in at the moment. What we are interested in is kind of like at the end here. These guys. These are the methods: append, clear. So you can append to a list. Basically, you can make a list longer. Clear, copy, count, extend, index, insert, then pop, remove, reverse, and of course sort. So these are some of the methods. These are the 11 methods you can use on a list. If, for example, you have got a method like append, how do you want to find out what it does? So you do the following. You say help, then you type list, then after list, you put a dot, then you say append. When you do that, Python is going to print out what append does. Basically, here's an explanation of how append is used. So say append, then something, then the explanation is append object to the end of a list. So whatever it is you have, you add it to the object of a list, whatever you have given Python. That's how you get an explanation of what append does. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. There is this other one, the clear method. What does it do? So you say help, list, then clear. When you run that, you get an explanation of what it does: remove all items from a list. So when you use the method clear, what it's going to do is it's going to remove everything from a list. Then this one, help, list, count, what does this do? It says this one says return the number of occurrences of a value. So with this one, it helps you count how many times an item exists or occurs in a list. Then there's this one, copy, the copy method. What does it do? So list copy, return a shallow copy of the list. So basically it helps you make a copy of a list. Then there's this one, list extend. List extend, what does it do? If you run that, it says extend list by appending elements from an iterable. So an iterable is something like a list. So basically with extend, you give it a list or a tuple of elements, then those tuple of elements are going to be added to some particular lists. Then there's index, list index. List index returns the first index of a value. So basically this one, you give it a value, then it gives you at what position that particular value exists first. And of course it gives you an error if that particular value is not in list. Then there is insert, list insert. List insert, insert an object before an index. So basically you give the position, then at that particular position an object is going to be inserted before. Then of course there's list pop. List pop says remove and return the item at an index. So basically this one is going to remove an item at a particular index, then it will give it to you. Then of course there is list remove. List remove removes the first occurrence of a value. So remove removes the first occurrence of a particular value. Then of course there is reverse, list reverse, reverse in place. So it does a reverse, then list sort. Then this one is going to do a sort. Okay, so basically what I've shown you here is, first, how do you know which methods are available for you to use with a list? This is what you do. You say print, then you type dir, then inside dir you put list. Then Python is going to print out which methods are available for you to use for the list. Then the next is, for a particular method, how do you get an explanation of how to use that that method and what it does? So basically you say help, then list, then you put a dot, then the name of the method you're interested in. Is this clear?
Yes.
Rachel?
Clear.
Okay, so now we can make progress and try to see how to use these things. So here we create an empty list, which is cars. So this cars list doesn't have anything, it's empty. When you print cars, that's what we get. Then we want to add things to these cars. For example, here we want to add this car brand BMW to cars. So we say cars.append, then the value we want to add to the list. So cars.append BMW, we run that, then we print cars. Now cars has got this value BMW. So that's how you add an item to a list one by one. We want to add another car brand, which is Audi. So you say cars.append Audi, then we run that and you print cars. Now you've got BMW and Audi. Then you want to add another car brand, which is Ford. So cars.append Ford, like that. Then you print cars there. So what you see about append, the method append, is it allows you to add an item, one item, to a list at a time, and that item you're adding is added at the end of the list. Is that clear? So this is how we are going to be adding things to a list if you want to add things one at a time. Okay, then we want to add another car brand, which is Kia. So we say cars.append Kia, like that. Then we print out cars there. So Kia has been added at the end of the list. Then cars, we want to add Mazda, then cars.append Mazda. So you're adding one item at a time. Then you print out cars there, Mazda. Then again cars.append Hyundai or Hyundai. Then you print out cars like that. So here you have it. Here with BMW, Audi, Ford, Kia, Mazda, Hyundai. All these items were added one at a time. So we had to do append several times. Is that clear?
Yes.
Now, when you are using a method, when you're using a function, we say you're calling a function. When you use a method, we say you are invoking a method. Are we clear? So there's a difference when you call a function and you invoke a method. Basically, that's the language which is used. Okay. Sometimes you want to add more than one item to a list at a go. Okay. So if you want to add another list to an existing list, for example, here we create a list of called other cars. So this is a list of other cars, car brands. Okay. So we print this list, as you can see, so that we can see that this thing has actually been added, printed out, created. So this is a list of other car brands. A lot of them. So if you want to add more than one item to a list, then what you're trying to do is you're trying to extend that list. And that's where this method called extend comes in. Okay. The extend method allows you to add a list to another list. Okay. Are we clear? What we have here, these other cars, this is a list we've created, but we already have a list called cars. So we can say cars like that, then dot extend, then we give extend another list we want to add to cars. So when this happens like that, okay, then we print out cars now. This is what we get. So we get BMW, Audi, Ford, Kia, Mazda, Hyundai. This was the first list. This was the first one. Then the next one, starting from here, this is what we have added. All the way up to there, up to the end. That's what we have added. Are we clear?
Yes.
When you want to add more than one item to a list, or anything which is to a list, especially you want to add more than one item, which maybe you want to add another list, then you extend that particular list. Okay. Of course, as you can see, the items in our list are not arranged nicely. They're all over the place. So sometimes you want to sort. You want to have a very nice, neat list. And that's where this method called sort comes in. So if you say cars.sort, this is going to change the arrangement of your list in alphabetical order nicely. And now you print cars. This is what you get. Now it starts from Acura, Audi, Austin Martins, Bentley, Bugatti, BMW, Chery, Citroen, Deo, Ferrari. So you can see everything now has been arranged alphabetically all the way up to the end. Is this clear?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you want to sort a list, you have to use the sort method. Sometimes also you can have a list which is sorted, but you want it reversed. You want your list in reverse. So for you, if you want to list it in reverse, then you use this method called reverse. So you say cars.reverse. If you say cars.reverse, then you print cars. Now it starts from the beginning, from the end. It says it starts with VW, then Toyota, Suzuki, Rowe, Renault, Peugeot, Mitsubishi, Mini, Mercedes, all the way going around like that. You can again reverse this list. You say cars.reverse, then you print out this. You end up with this: Acura, Audi, Austin Martins, Bentley, Bugatti, BMW, Chery, Citroen, Deo, like that. So you can reverse a list using the reverse method as many as you want, as many times as you want. Are we clear?
Yes.
Brian, is this clear?
Yes, it is.
Yes. So basically, these methods, these things we are looking at, they only work with a list. That's why they're called methods. Only work with a certain type of data. Okay. So if you move to a tuple, tuples only have certain methods they work with. Dictionaries also only have certain methods they work with. Sets also have only certain methods they work with. This lesson is there to show you just if you have a certain data type, then it has got a particular bunch of things. How do you use those methods? Then there is a method called index. Now the index method is used for getting the position of a value. Okay? You use the index method to get the first position of a value in a list. For example, there is in this list of cars, there is this Fiat. What is the index of Fiat? What is the position of Fiat in the list? So you say cars.index, then you put a value whose position you want to find. You want to find the position of Fiat. And Python is going to tell you Fiat is at index 10, which means that is the 11th position on the list. Are we clear?
Yes.
If you want to find the position of Mini in the list, Mini is where? Mini is here in this list. What is the position of Mini in the list? So you say cars.index, then you put the value whose position you want to find in the list. So Mini is at position number 25. Same with Kia. If you want to find the position of Kia in the list, you say cars.index Kia, you get the index of Kia, which is 19. So if you want to find the position of something in the list, then you use the index method. Is that clear?
Clear.
Next, sometimes you want to add something to a list at a particular position, because remember, we have seen how to add things at the end of a list using the append method. Because if you say append always adds things at the end of your list. Okay? Every time you say append is going to add something at the end of a list. Then if you say extend, you're extending a list. That extended list is going to be put at the end of that list, which is the first one. Okay? But sometimes you want to insert something at a particular position before a particular position. And if you want to insert stuff, you have to use a method called insert. With this method called insert, you have to provide the position where you want to insert the element. So the element is going to be inserted before a particular position. So for example, we have cars. Let me say print cars like that. Then I run this. So this is what cars looks like. So the first position here is this one. But what I want to do when I do this, cars.insert 0, then I want to add Porsche there. I want to add Porsche before this position. So I want Porsche to become the first item in this case, like that. Then I print that. So now you can see Porsche is now the first item. So the index, so when you provide the value like 0 here, then you provide the position, which is 0, the first position, then the value. This value is going to be put before that particular position. Are we clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that particular thing is going to be put before that particular position. So here, again, at index number 3, before index number 3, I want to put this value called Subaru. I also want to put another Subaru before index number 8, before index 8, like that. Then I also want to put another Subaru before index 13. Then I print out cars. So you can see there is a Subaru here. There is also another Subaru inserted here. There is also another Subaru inserted there, like that. So you can insert values at particular positions before those particular positions by using the insert method. You need to provide the index or the location where you want to insert this thing. Then you also need to provide the value you want to insert at that particular position. Are we clear?
Clear.
Next bit is the count method. You want to find out how many times does a value exist in a list. And that's where count is. Your count method is used for finding out how many times the value exists in a list. So in this case, you can say cars.count Subaru. So you want to find out how many times the Subaru exists in a list. Here it says 3 times. Then cars.count Chevrolet, how many times the Chevrolet exists in a list? 0 times, it's not there. Then cars.fiat, how many times does it exist? Fiat exists only 1 time. So this is how you do a count. How many times does a particular value exist in your list? Are we clear?
Yes.
Yes.
These are tasks which you should be able to carry out because we are going to need these skills as we proceed with this whole course. Because right now we're just learning the language, but these are things which you need to know how to do. You can make a copy of a list. And how do you make a copy of a list? To properly copy, you use the copy method. So the cars, then you say to copy, then you want to copy a copycat like that. So if you print copycat, you get a copy of a list. Nicely done. Okay. You can also empty a list by removing everything from a list, not necessarily deleting that particular list, but just remove things from a list. Remember, we had the list called other cars, right? So you can remove things from that list called other cars. So you say other cars.clear like that. Then if you print other cars, there's nothing. Now other cars is empty. So other cars has not been deleted, but it has just been emptied. Okay, it has been cleared. We also just created a copy called copycat. Then we clear whatever is in copycat. Then you print copycat. So now copycat doesn't have anything. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay, the other method, the 10th one, because remember the 11, the 10th one is remove. Now, the remove method allows you to remove the first occurrence of a particular value. So for example here, I count how many times Subaru exists in a list. It says 3 times, right? So I say cars.remove Subaru. So Subaru is going to be removed. The first time when Python checks the list and it finds Subaru, that first time where it exists is going to be removed. If I count Subaru again now, the number of occurrences has reduced to 2. So here the occurrences was 3. I removed the first occurrence of Subaru. Then I count again. Now it's 2. I remove the next occurrence of Subaru. Then I count how many times it exists. 1. Then I remove this occurrence of Subaru. Then I count how many times it exists. 0. Now 0 times. I try to remove how many something which is not there, and now I get an error. Because when you try to remove something which is not there in the list, you get an error. Are we clear?
It's clear.
Yep. That's good. The other method, the other way of removing something from a list is by doing something called by removing using the position. Here we have been removing using the value. You provide the value which you want to remove. Okay? That's one way of doing things. The other way of doing things is by providing the index you want to, the index of the item you want to remove. So in this case, I'll count how many times Chevrolet exists. Okay, it doesn't exist. Alright, so there should be a mistake somewhere. I should have done. Which other car exists several times? Let me see. Okay, let me remove Kia, not Chevrolet. Kia. Let me count how many times Kia exists. Okay, let me count how many times Kia exists. Okay, so Kia exists one time, right? Then I look for the position. Where is this Kia? Okay, what is the position of Kia in the list? Python tells me Kia is located at index 20, index position 20, right? So I decide to store this position index 20 in a variable called ind. Okay, then I can print this ind, print ind 20. Now I use this ind, which is the short name for the index, in this method called pop. So cars.pop index, like that. When I use that, you can see that pop shows me what it has removed. Okay, now if I count how many times Kia exists in the list, I get 0. Is this clear?
Yes.
All right. So that's how you use pop. Any questions?
So far, so good.
Okay. So we're about to finish. The next one is these tuple guys. So these tuple guys, they're basically just two methods. So we can say display the built-in tuple methods. What is that? No. There's supposed to be a text one. Then this one should go down. Yeah, so here I'm supposed to say display the built-in tuple methods. Display built-in tuple methods. Okay, so for me to do that, to see which methods are available for me to use as tuple, I'll say that print dir, then I'll say tuple. I run that. Okay, there's some stuff which comes up there, but at the end here we are interested in what's at the end. There are only two methods you can use for a tuple. There's count and also index. So a tuple, there is not much room for you to do anything with a tuple, because remember, a tuple, once you make a tuple, you kind of cannot do anything much about that. Is that clear? Once you create a tuple, you can't change anything. Okay, so for us, what we do is we change our list cars, we change it into a tuple by doing the following. We change our list cars into a tuple by doing the following. Okay, that using the tuple function. Then if we print cars now, print cars, now our cars is a tuple. You can see it has got this parenthesis. Now our cars has changed from a list into a tuple. So we know how to do this, how to change a list into a tuple. Once you're happy with your list, you can always change it into a tuple, but there's very little you can do when it comes to a tuple. The only things you can do, for example, is here we can do a count. Subaru, we have deleted it from this thing, so basically let's change from Subaru to something else. Let's say Fiat. Count of Fiat. How many times does Fiat exist? How many times does Fiat exist in this tuple? One time. And how many times does maybe, let's say, Nissan exist? How many times does Nissan exist? Nissan. So how many times does Nissan exist? Yeah, one time. So basically, for a tuple, there's very little you can do. The only thing you can do with the tuple is count how many times items exist in that particular tuple. The other one is finding the position of items. What is the position of an item? For example, what is the position of Kia? If it's still there, okay, Kia is not there because we removed it. So we're going to find another car brand. For example, Suzuki here. Suzuki. I'm going to put Suzuki here instead of Kia. Okay. Then we'll put Suzuki here. There. Then we run that. So it tells us, oh, Suzuki is at position number 31. That's all we can do with tuples. You can count how many times an item exists in a tuple. You can also find the position of items. Are we clear?
Clear.
Rachel?
Okay.
You okay?
Yes.
So you can say help tuple count. That gives you detail. Okay, retain the number of occurrences of a value. Then you can also say help help. Then you say tuple index. It gives you the position. Then first index of a value. So this is all you can do basically for a tuple. You can count how many times an item exists. Then you can count the position. Okay. Most of the things, if you really want to do something, you have to do things with a list. Once you're happy with your final list, then you can change your list into a tuple. Are we clear?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, this is what methods are. Methods are functions which work on specific objects. Are we clear? Methods are functions which work on specific objects. Any questions?
No question.
Brian, we'll continue to look at we're just going to look at methods for lists, tuples, and also dictionaries. So on Monday we're going to look at methods for dictionaries. Then it will also be, there are also about 10, I think, methods for dictionaries. Okay, so it's going to be a quick class. So basically the Monday one is also going to be quick. Then after that we'll move on to other things. So that right now, by the time we reach Monday, I'm sure anything to do with functions, we have looked at it. Okay, and all the different types of functions which you could meet. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay, so today we're going to end here. I'll send you the updated what's this? Notebook. I'll send the updated notebook, and also, yeah, the video will be uploaded to YouTube. If you're watching any videos there, please watch, and yeah, it helps a lot. All right, so we end here. I'll stop